Happy Thursday. It's me back to reading from Shri Sai Satcharitra and it's chapter 16. So here we go. Om Sai Ram. A narration about Brahma Jnana. My obeisance to Shri Ganesha, to Shri Saraswati and Shri Guru Maharaj, to the family deity, to Shri Sai Satcharitra-chapter, my most humble obeisance. I bow in reverence to the most venerable Guru Shri Sai Nath. This is part 1 of the Brahma Jnana. The King of Kings, Lord Paramount, enthroned on the throne of peace, Master of the empire of the blissful self, and our one and only refuge, Shri Guru Raj, to him let us make obeisance. On his either side are being waved gently two chauris, feather brushes of steady, fast devotion and Sahaj Sthiti, that's Sahaj Samadhi, and fanning him with great reverence are Swanubhuti, that is direct, intuitive perception of the divine and instant experience. Self-absorption is the royal parasol over his head. Peaceful, benign feelings are the staff in the hand of his royal staff bearers. The Shadripus and Maya, temptations, etc., will not endure here, even for a moment. Oh, for the splendor of his royal court! 4 Vedas, 6 Darshanas, 18 Puranas are royal minstrels that sing his praises. The radiance of pure knowledge forms a brilliant awning overhead, and bliss, inner bliss, dense and thick, suffuses the atmosphere. Detachment, devotion, pure knowledge, listening, reflection, contemplation, incessant concentration on the self, and actual perception of God, these are his 8 ministers of state, engaged in his service. He whose throat is adorned with divine gems, peace and self-restraint, these whose melodious speech transposes the nectar from the ocean of Vedanta, at the sight of whose hand, raised high to strike with the lustrous, sharp-edged sword of knowledge, the tree of worldly life which trembles with fear. Glory be to one such as you, O pure immortal Yogi Raja, who are above the gunas and have assumed this human form only for the benefit of others and for the upliftment of the meek and the poor. In the last chapter, the story was narrated of how, for confirming the devotee in his faith, Baba brought about the fulfillment of his vow and gave him the mark that he knew his secret. The Sadguru is forever satiated in all his desire. How can a devotee then satisfy his desires? In fact, it is the Guru who satisfies the devotee's wishes of serving the Guru, thereby making him free of all desires. A flower, a leaf, when offered with true devotion, will be lovingly accepted by him. The same, when offered with pride and conceit, he will spurn, turning his head away at once. He who is the knowledge, ocean of truth, knowledge and joy, oh, of what importance are to him these details of ritualistic worship? But when offered with faith and devotion, he accepts them gladly. Under the cover of not knowing anything, he in reality removes ignorance and gives us knowledge. Without transgressing the limits set by the Shastras, he imparts instructions to his devotees in a pleasant manner. When he is served faithfully, the worshipper experiences oneness with the Brahman. Abandon all other means and serve the Guru in utmost humility. Slightest negligence in that service or even a suspicion of oversmartness in it will only harm the seeker. What is needed here is steadfast faith in the Guru. Moreover, what does a devotee do by his own efforts? Nay, it is a Sadguru who facilitates whatever he does. For the devotee does not know his difficulties, and it is a Guru who helps him overcome them, though he does not know it. There is no other benefactor in all the three worlds than the Guru himself. Let us then surrender wholeheartedly to him, who is the greatest everlasting refuge of the supplicants. If the Guru were to be compared to Chintamani, the divine gem will grant you only what you wish for, whereas to the astonishment of the devotee, the Guru will grant him the most inconceivable of things. If compared to the Kalpataru, the wishing tree of Indra's heaven satisfies only what the devotee desires, but Guru Raya gives to him the most unimaginable state of nirvikalpa or super consciousness. Kamadhenu, the wish fulfilling cow, instantly gives whatever is wished for, but far greater than her is the Guru, the divine cow. Who else but he can be adorned with the title, the giver of the inconceivable? And now I have only one request to make to the listeners, to listen attentively to the story which I said at the end of the last chapter that I would narrate. The story about the man who came to Baba desiring to know about the Brahman. Listen to the summum bonum of life as to how Baba satisfied the man who came to him with fond wish to get to know Brahma Jnana, and how Baba instructed him and also his own devotees. Saints are always free from desires, being completely satiated already, but the devotees are full of desires, which always remains unfulfilled. Some ask for a son, some ask for an everlasting kingdom, some ask to have faith and devotion, but only rarely will one ask for liberation from the worldly life. One such devotee of simple faith, but who was always engrossed in accumulating wealth, once had a strong urge to take Baba's darshan as he had heard of Baba's great renown. At home, he had everything in abundance, wealth, children, a host of servants. Yet he wished to have Baba's darshan, as Baba was the very image of munificence. Baba, he thought, is a great Brahmagyani, the brightest gem amongst the sadhus and saints. Let me place my head at his feet, for his ways are just inscrutable. I want for nothing, so let me ask for Brahmagnana. If I can get that even this very easily, I shall be blessed indeed. His friend then said to him, "It is not easy to know the Brahman, and to a greedy person like you, it is most difficult that it should reveal itself. You who know no other source of happiness except wealth, wife, and children, and the like. Brahman to you is an aberration. How will it bring you any peace or happiness? When the bodily organs become feeble, the world does not care for you. It is then the idle man whiles away its time, spinning away the yarn of the Brahman. Of such a kind is your curiosity about Brahman. Miserly that you are, and reluctant to part with even a pice, you will not find anyone who will satisfy your wish. However, with such a desire in his heart, the seeker of the Brahman set out to go to Shirdi, having engaged a Tonga for the return journey too. And thus he arrived at Sai's feet. He took Sai's darshan and made an obeisance at his feet. And now listen, O listeners, to the sweet words that Sai addressed to him. For this Kalpataru of Sai's tales, when watered with the water of attentive listening, will only take a firm root as listeners' reference grows, so it will bring forth an abundance of fruit. It will become succulent in each and every part, will blossom into fragrant flowers, will bow down with the weight of delicious fruit, and the desire of the enjoyers will be satisfied. So he said, Baba, please show me the Brahman. With this sole desire in my heart, I have come. People say that Shirdi Baba shows Brahman without any delay. Hence, I have come all this way, and after my journey, I am very tired. And if I now attain that Brahman, I will have accomplished the object of all my efforts. Baba said, Don't worry, I will show you the Brahman promptly at once. There is no question of credit dealings here. But oh, it is people like you who ask for Brahman who are rare. People do ask for abundance of wealth and prosperity, or for the cure of disease, removal of difficulties, or for fame, honor, power, and authority. It is the happiness that they always ask for. People come running to Shirdi only to ask for material pleasures and worship me, a mere fakir, for it. But no one asks for the Brahman. Of these pleasures loving people, I have an abundance. It is people like you who are in dearth. I crave for such seekers, after the Brahman, meeting whom is a parvakal for me. By the fear of this Brahman, the sun and the moon move in their orbits, rising and setting regularly, and the sunlight and the moonlight appear at their appointed time. And so also the seasons, summer and spring and winter, come and go in the proper order. And Indra and other gods, the guardians of the people appointed to the 8 directions, look for their subjects. All these take place due to this Brahman. Hence, before the physical body is cast off, a wise man attains the highest object of life, that is Brahman. Oh, or else the continuous cycle of birth and death pursues him relentlessly. If the body fails without having known this Brahman, the bondage of worldly life will follow, and rebirth will become inevitable. I shall show you not only the Brahman, but the entire coil or the essence that is Brahman, which is enveloping you from tip to toe, and which I shall unwind and separate. Oh, how nectar sweet was the speech, a mine of the highest, the most incomparable bliss, which had the power to uplift even those who wavered in their doubts. By the power of Baba's words, those engaged day and night in the pursuit of transient fleeting pleasures will also be guided firmly to the path prescribed by the Shastras. If the Chintamani, that is Ganesh, is pleased, all the material pleasures are attained. If Mahendra is pleased, the wealth of heaven is gained. But more remarkable than these is the Guru, for there is no benefactor like the Guru who will reveal the heart to attain Brahman to his devotee. when he is pleased. By listening to the sweet tale, all the cares and sorrows of the worldly life will be forgotten. Baba also knew too well how to instruct the seekers of the Brahman. So he then made him sit down, engaging his attention elsewhere for a moment, making him feel as if he had forgotten about his question. And then what Baba did was he called one boy to him, saying, "Go quickly to Nandu and give him this message. Baba urgently needs to borrow 5 rupees, so give quickly the money for the occasion and be returned shortly." The boy went to Nandu's house, but there was a lock on his front door. So at once he came back and told Baba. Baba said, "Go back again. Go to the grocer's, Bala. Maybe he's at home. Give him the message. Bring back the money quickly. Go." But even this trip was wasted, for even Baba was not at home. Bala was not at home. The boy narrated to Baba all that had happened. Baba sent him in great haste on the same errand to one or two other places. The boy grew weary of this unprofitable trips, but was not able to bring back even a pice. Baba knew full well that neither Nandu nor Bala nor any of the others would be home, for Maharaj had intuitive knowledge about everything. Himself a living, conversing Brahman, will Baba ever be short for mere 5 rupees? But it was all a sport for the benefit of the seeker of Brahman. When a sweet dish or shira is prepared in the honor of the guest who comes home, the feast is enjoyed by all others too. Similarly, this Brahma Bhakta was but a pretext put forward by Maharaj to instruct his devotees for the benefit of all. In that, the seeker pockets there was a bundle of notes worth about 250 rupees. And Sainath knew it. And did not that seeker of Brahman know it? Did he not have eyes to see? But the prosperity of his doubts and hesitation restrained him through the bundles of money in his pocket. Here he comes to ask for revelation, but too has not the heart to loan a mere 5 rupees to Sai, and that too was for a brief while. Sai Maharaj well he knew was true to his word. The amount to be lent just for a little while was small, but the moment he was inclined to lend the money, doubts at once assailed the mind. And after all, what was a mere 5 rupees for him? But even that he could not bring himself to part with, indeed. He was avarice personified, who could not accumulate Sai for such a small amount. But it had been a simple, trusting soul who had genuine affection for Sai. He would not have been able to hear the spectacle of borrowing and lending taking place before his own eyes. He who was thirsting from Brahman so much could not have understood the questions. I do not think at all, but he was totally engulfed by this. Yeah. And then he would have at least kept quiet for all this, but no, he was in a mighty hurry to go back, and he said with great impatience, Oh, Baba Sai, show me the Brahman quickly. Baba then said, but I have not made any offer so far, right? To show you the Brahman from the place where you are. Have you understand? Have you understood the absolutely nothing? For the sake of Brahman, one has to surrender the five vital airs, the organs of knowledge, the five organs of knowledge, and the five organs of action, ego, intellect, and mind. The path of the Brahma Gnana is very difficult. It is not easily attainable by one and all. It reveals only suddenly to the fortunate one whose when fortune is in ascendancy. He who is attached and is redefined by the glory even of the Brahmapada, such one alone has the authority to gain Brahmavidya. But he is totally detached from all else. Whoever it is who gives the Brahma Gnana, and however complete form, will he ever succeed if the seeker does not have even a trace of renunciation? Those with the highest spiritual authority attain Brahma Gnana easily without any difficulty. But no, okay. But those whose authority is mediocre always have to proceed slowly according to the religious tradition laid down by the Shastras. For one, it is as swift as the flight of a bird. For the other, it is a slow step by step climb on the ladder of religious tradition. But for him, without any spiritual authority at all, to attempt to know the Brahman is altogether fruitless task. There is no lighter or nor excellent means of attaining the Brahman without discerning. No, describing knowledge of the real and the unreal is no doubt a true aphorism of the with deep study and arduous effort. When the physical frame is worn down, only then it does it dawns slowly in the light of the Guru's grace. When Brahmadev becomes egoistic and thinks, I am the supreme God, I am the controller, and he forgets his true self, it is then the universe is created. And when the knowledge comes to that, I am myself the Brahman, then no one becomes one with his real self. And in that moment, the lustrous illusion about the reality of the universe is dispelled. Once a self-awakening occurs, bringing with it the feeling of oneness and with the all-pervading Brahman, thus universe becomes its sacrificial offerings to the fire god, that is Brahman. The creation is such is the condition of living creatures. When the misconception is removed, the delusions about the rope, the sunbeams, and the oyster shell are all dispelled. What they mean by rope, because sometimes when you look at the rope in the dark, you think that the rope is a snake. So, yeah. Ignorance of its being an oyster shell creates the illusion of silver. But a true knowledge of the nature of silver at once brings the realization that it is only an oyster shell, and in that moment of the great of silver disappears altogether, and the oyster shell is perceived clearly and definitely the other way. It is symptomatic of reciprocal ignorance burnished us. It is a sorry, I when I'm reading suddenly I just go into, it just started happening after the eclipse, so please forgive me. Ignorance of being an oyster shell creates the illusion of silver, but a true knowledge of the nature of silver at once brings the realization that it is only an oyster shell. In that moment, the illusion of silver disappears altogether, and the oyster shell is perceived clearly and definitely for what it is. It is a symptomatic of reciprocal ignorance. Burnish the lamp of knowledge by scouring and scrubbing the impurities of ignorance, so that all illusions are destroyed. Had there been no bondage of birth and death, why would there be this determined pursuit of moksha? What would our concern be there with the Vedanta? Whatever this discourse on Brahman Jnana at all. But he who firmly believes there and is determined, I am in bondage, I want to be liberated, only he has authority to be a seeker here, neither the totally ignorant nor the complete jnani. When there is no bondage, how can there be a liberation? This is the truth. Bondage and liberation arise from the association with the three gunas. Such is the experience of all. But in the absence of any duality, who binds and who liberates? Here, nobody is in the bondage and nobody is liberated. Once the feeling of duality disappears through non duality, are the phenomena of the day and night a creation of the sun? It is all a matter of delusion of the eye, for the sun is aloof from it. When the joys of heaven and sorrows of hell are experienced with ego, I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, the intentness and the attachment to desire decreases. Self is constant, ancient, and indestructible. It is without the changes of birth, death, etc. The letter Omkar is a symbol. It is continual without a beginning and an end. He who disregards the body itself to the self, he regards the body itself to the self, feels that he is separate, the creation is separate, and such a one will never get self knowledge and comes with self experience, and that knowledge that comes with self experience, however hard he may toil for it. Conquer speech and all other senses, make a firm resolve of the mind, and then extinguish the involuntary activity of the mind and hold steadfast to the intellect. The intellect gives knowledge and is in the form of light. It is here that the mind shall be concentrated, for the mind, for the group of all the sense organs, including the mind, are controlled by the intellect. The initial source of an earthen pot is the day, and so is intellect to these sense organs. In the same sense, it is a constant state. Such is the pervasiveness of the intellect. By virtue of all its pervasive nature, the intellect fills in the knowledge like mind, brain, hence this intellect with the all-pervading divine consciousness as that divine principle into the self. When a sum total is made in this way, the true nature of the self is revealed with a certainty, and the sum is silver of the oyster shell, the mirage in the sand, the sublime into the self. When the sum total is made in this way, the true nature of the self is revealed with a certainty, the silver of the oyster shell, the mirage in the sand. The serpent in the rope becomes only optical illusions. It is this self complete, not with the extinguished quality, without birth and death. There we must realize to attain our lasting good. So say the sages, all the effects have a cause, but the soul is self-existence without a cause. It is the ancient, but from the beginning, it is beyond past, present, and future by its own very nature. It is beyond the reach of the intellect, inviolable as the sky, beyond birth and death, such self-sustained and impure. Its support is the prana pradishta, prana sarva. Sorry. The infinite Brahman is to be known. The Brahman which becomes finite is to be attained. It is the symbol Om is to be meditated upon, to be worshipped always. The Omkar in the form of a Pranava or Brahman is the essence of all the Vedas. And the ascertainment of its meaning is a real contemplation of the Bible. That which the Vedas themselves have established, which the seekers achieve with the greatest effort by observing celibacy, that is called the highest state of Om. However extremely difficult as it seems to ascend to the state, it becomes easy to attain for him who studies hard. Once he receives his Guru's grace, beginning with the most with the most gross among the physical organs, when an untiring seeker in his arduous study reaches the most subtle, discriminating legacy. Beginning, such is the letter Om to be pronounced through the speech, which is the sum total of all penance and the most utterance of which brings out its essential meaning. The constant repetition of which will result in a vision or manifestation of God. Blessed is the steadfast devotee of Sadguru, who will know that all-pervading spirit which is unaffected by changes of growth and decay. How can they who are forever afflicted by the threefold afflictions of Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhideva ever enjoy such good fortune? Such glory is only for the saints. Out of engagement. Sorry, I'm falling asleep. Please forgive me. Out of ignorance arises the birth death cycle, and the only means to be liberated from it is the realization of oneness between the Brahman and the self. This can be achieved through the saints. When the mind is free from all thoughts of sense objects, and by repeating the Vedic aphorism, I am Brahman, that is Tattvam Asi, the intellect tends to think the same. Convinced by the truth of the words, the Guru, and the Shastras, when the tendency to do karma mentally and physically ceases altogether, it is then that the self is truly realized. Only then is knowledge attained fully and clearly. Salvation comes from the material means of sensual pleasures. The meshes of ignorance, etc., in the heart are disentangled, and the seeker enters the unmanifest to become one with it. More subtle than the subtlest atom in the ray of light, so small and subtle is the Atman. Such is the definite idea of Atman. Atman is larger even than the Brahmananda, which is the largest among the large. But all this is only a relative standard. Atman is beyond all measurement. In subtlety, it is the subtlest among the subtle. In largeness, it is the largest among the large. Hence, the name or form are merely discriminative appellations, while the Atman is perfect without any appellations. The Atman has no birth or death, nor has it any casual origin. It is unborn, constant, indestructible, and ancient. It is difficult to know it clearly, effortlessly. Omkar, the symbol of Brahman, is its fundamental nature, which it has been difficult even for the Vedas or Shastras to understand. Will it then easy to know for one and all? Trying to understand it, the Vedas were exhausted. The ascetics repaired to the woods. The Upanishads gave up in despair as none could ascertain it. To realize the true nature of the Atman, it is necessary to have an Acharya who has realized the non duality between the God and the Atman. When even those skilled in reasoning gain no entry here, what to say of the others? There is no place for logicians here, for they will be caught up in the whirlpool of created by their own chaotic mind. Except the Veda, Shastras, and the Guru, no one else has the steady fastness of mind needed for the self-realization. Innumerable stars of one's own intellectual speculations and theories cannot help one avoid the 84 lakhs cycles of birth and death. It is enough for us to have even one moon, the Guru and the Shastras, and even the traces of darkness and of ignorance are cleared away. He who holds fast to his Guru will achieve the little effort what others fail to achieve, and with great painful effort, for he will receive the light of ignorance or Brahmagnana. Where Brahmagnana is removed without effort and blissful, self-knowledge comes to stay, and the state of self-absorption emerges. It is indeed the state of which moksha is just another name. This then alone is the most desirable, highest goal of human existence. It is for this that the brahmacharis who strives to be the one with the Brahman, and the seekers who are constantly self-absorbed, making great efforts. He who turns away from the self, rarely caught up in the tumult of sensual desires, but once he is firmly concentrated in his true self, his sensual desires become weak. For one who has turned away from self, the sensual pleasures are near at hand. But the moment he turns inwards to his own true self, the sensual desires turn away from him. He who desires nothing but moksha and has no other desires in his mind has no temptations either in this world or the next. He alone is deserving of moksha or salvation. Known this clearly, that he who lack, uh, lacks even in these qualities is not a true saint. He only pretends to be a seeker, yeah, as a man, blind in one eye, pretending to see. Unless the ego completely falls off, unless greed is totally eradicated, the mind is detached and is free from desires. Brahma Jnana will not only firmly imprint identification of the self with the Buddha, body itself is a delusion. Attachment to anything is a bondage. Give these pilgrimages of sensual desires and the memory, and you will attain Brahman. Brahman in its attributeless state is difficult to realize. Hence, wise men know the importance of Brahman and its manifest finite form, and thus consider this worship to be the consider its worship to be their dharma. Vedantins know this truth about the Atman dwells in all creatures, secretly, mysteriously, but where there is a dispute of it, that can be intuitively experienced by everyone. First, the heart will never be First, the heart must be purified over and over until the intellect has to be sharp at the point of kushagras. Only then this Atman with his three intellect has to be sharp as a point of the kushagras. Only then will this Atman in its thrice purified state, in its kindness, reveal itself on its own. The Atman is constantly affected by the changes such as birth, death, growth. The self-realization realized never grieves and alone is truly courageous and wise and is forever liberated from the worldly life. The skill and the fluency of the pravachan on the power of the grasping the significance of books is of no avail. Even an infinite knowledge of the Vedas and Shastras will not explain anything. The Atman is constant, free from changes, from uh, or nature. The body is transitory, the subject to continual changes. Knowing this, he who works for his own good is aware all the time what is proper or improper in his actions. The self realized is always fearless and knows that he alone is that nothing else apart from himself. When the dusky duality is thus wiped out, total destruction of new sorrows more certainly. Although it is difficult to know the Atman, which cannot be known by listening to pravachans, though mere intellect is of no use in trying to understand it, yet it can be easily realized when proper means are pursued. He who always, without desires except for the one desire of self knowledge, such a one, when he constantly beseeches the Atman, he alone will gain this highest gain. The Atman will bestow its grace on him. He who bears in the mind that the non duality between self and God, all the same, saying to himself, I am He, and as he listens to Katha, Kirtan, and meditates upon it. I am He is an Tattvamasi, right? He who has never refrained from sinful behavior and has attachment, who is always unquiet, unmeditative, cannot attain this secret, even this by knowledge. He who acts according to the Shruti, Smruti command and eschew what is forgotten, whose familiar is always concentrated in meditation. Such a one has a Atman in his power. He who is free from sinful behavior and surrenders himself humbly at the feet of his Guru, whose desire for the fruit of action has ceased, only such a one can attain the Atman. Without becoming free of sensual desires, without desiring anything but the Atman, without a cessation of all natural propensities, the affection of the mind, it is very difficult to know the Atman. Seeing the austerity and penance of the seeker, the Atman itself will be roused to pity, and only then it will manifest its true nature. But this is not easy itself, unless one has a guru. Hence, to know the self or Atman, a seeker should listen, scared, sacred tears, contemplate on them, sacred text, Hence, to know the self or Atman, the seeker has to listen to sacred texts, contemplate on them, bearing in mind constantly the principle of non duality. Only then will knowledge become easy, or knowledge will come easily. This worldly life too is filled with ignorance, and such it is manifesting. The worldly life is filled with ignorance and is widely spread. Manifestation also originates from ignorance. Know well that without knowledge, moksha or salvation has no place. To experience the truth of the Shastras, reasoning power and ingenuity of mind are necessary, but knowledge comes only after the illusion of worldly life is destroyed, without which it is impossible. He alone is a great soul who comes to the world as realizing that every living being, be a saint or a sinner, is God Himself. He alone sees the non duality between God and man. The experience of oneness between God and self is the end of knowledge, all knowledge. One self knowledge becomes, all ignorance will disappear. When self is realized fully, nothing more remains to be known. Due to this actual personal experience, everything is known to the seeker as a thing in the palm of his hand. He enjoys the fruit of Brahmajnana enjoys the fruit of this Brahmagnana and his complete liberation from the worldly life in an immediate experience of bliss and an abundance of moksha. It is only to enable the intellect to comprehend its pervasiveness that the Atman is described as subtler than even the subtlest and larger than even the large. It In itself, the Atman is neither subtle nor large. The distinction of comparative size is imaginary. The Atman fully pervades the whole universe, from the Brahmadeva to the infinite shrub. Sorry, I don't know what's happening. Indescribable as this Atman is, though it is itself infinite, it is limited by putting it into speech, so the intellect may be able to grasp it. The true essence of the Atman will never be grasped on the strength of powerful intellect. Its attainment comes only by the grace of sadhus and the saints and the Sadguru, which is the fruit of devoted service to them. Is there a dearth of ready, detailed description of Brahman in the sacred books and pothis? But so long as the Sadguru does not bestow his grace, how hard one may try, one may never attain the Brahman to the knowledge to the end of this world. In the absence of the daily breathing classes and observances, when the mind is not purified by its influence, the Brahman can never be known and experienced. It is a truth thrice proclaimed that only Brahman is constant, all else is transient. All that means the I is without constancy. Rare is the speaker who can describe the Brahman. Rare also is the listener who is pure of heart. And rarer still is it is to get the Sadguru who is loving and experienced. Is Brahman a thing to be got for asking Brahma Yogis? Great yogis inhabiting secluded mountains and caverns, caught up in self imposed austerities and disciplines, engrossed in deep meditation, even they have not been able to perceive it, the Brahman without Guru's grace. Then how can it be attained by a person like you, who are a personification of greed itself? He who has never ending attachment to wealth can never, even to the end of the world, attain Brahmagnana, knowing to this to be a certainty. While such a listening to spiritual jnana, when the mind yet meditates on sensual pleasures, while listening to the spiritual discourse, and reflects incessantly on matters of worldly life, then the realization that comes is that of love, some kind. Impure negative emotions like anger, envy, etc., ascription of the fall, that is the vikshepa, untraveling of the true, the avran, are the three sources of mind. Except expectation of fruit, remove the actions performed with the expectation of fruit, remove the impure negative tendencies. Worship and devotion cleanse the mind of true false delusions. Proper actions and worship performed in this way bring maturity to the doer's eye. When the negative tendencies of the delusions are thus eradicated, all that remains is the veiling of the truth. This veil is the root of all evil. It destroys once knowledge appears. It is destroyed when knowledge appears. As darkness is destroyed by the rising of the sun, it is this Brahman which those proficient in the Vedanta have described as being characterized by truth, knowledge, infinity, which illuminates the the Jnani who becomes self absorbed. When the traveler walking alone along the jungle in the darkness of the night, which is only partially illuminated by the dim moonlight, is startled, mistaking the stump of a tree for a robber, and hides himself in great fear. I walk alone, he muses, and I am so carrying money too. He like he like a wayside robber is lying in wait for me. What is there to think now? There is a guarantee even of this life, when there is no guarantee of even this life. But suddenly, as a lamp approaches in the distance and reality of the supposed robber is revealed, his fear disappears and he realizes the robber was only an illusion. So I have narrated to the listeners all the obstacles in the way of realizing Brahman. In the next chapter, the nature of the highest bliss will be relieved to one who seeks such bliss. Himmat rolls at Sai's feet, talks wildly. Muhammad roll in next chapter. Hemad rolls at Sai's feet and talks wildly where whatever comes to his mind. May the simple, truthful, faithful one listen to whatever Sai makes me utter. We'll be to all, such is the end of the Shri Sai Satcharitra. We'll be to all. Here ends the 16th chapter of Shri Sai Satcharitra, called A Narration About Brahma Jnana, as inspired by the saints and the virtuous, and composed by his devotee Hemmat. Sorry, everyone. I seem to be going into a falling asleep or what, I don't know. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry. Sorry.